Welcome to the channel. My name is Dennis, and we often hear about these apparitions that occurred in Fatima in 1917, but do we really know exactly what happened on that last and final apparition on October 13th, 1917? I'm going to share with you the actual account of what happened, what people saw on that last final apparition. Now, I'm going to be quoting from this source, from this book that was published in 1947 by William Thomas Walsh. As you can see here, this is an old book. This is probably an original, published in 1947. He had interviewed dozens and dozens and dozens of actual eyewitnesses and interviewed people that were there, the family members, the parents of the children, the neighbors, the priest, the secular press. He had interviewed so many people years following this incredible miracle from 1917. So this is, again, was published about 30 years after the event. So everybody was still alive for the most part and has real reliable testimony. So he is stating in this book exactly what they saw. So again, it's reported that 50 to 70,000 people witnessed this miracle of the sun there, what is now the sanctuary of Fatima. But keep in mind, people many, many, many kilometers away in that part of Portugal saw the same vision of the sun spinning, dancing, emitting colors, crashing down to the earth, were scared for their lives. So it wasn't just happening there at that location at Fatima. So I'm going to quote from the actual author what these accounts were. So this is referring to Lucia, one of the three shepherd children. Those near her, Lucia, noticed that her face had become flushed and transparently beautiful. So she is now seeing this vision of Our Lady, Mary, and she is in ecstasy for this apparition. Continues on. She was gazing rapturously now at the lady herself, who stood in a flood of white light on the flowers that Maria Carrera had draped on the stump of the azanera. Jacinta and Francisco on either side of her, the other two shepherd children, stared likewise, both radiant, both quite oblivious of the multitude around them. "What do you want of me?" Lucia was kneeling with the others. The fine rain fell on her upturned face. "I want to tell you to have them build a chapel here in my honor. I am the Lady of the Rosary. Let them continue to say the Rosary every day. The war is going to end and the soldiers will soon return to their homes." "I have many things to ask you," said Lucia. "The cure of some sick persons, the conversion of some sinners. Some yes, others no. It is necessary that they amend their lives and ask pardon for their sins." Her face became graver as she continued, "Let them offend our Lord God no more, for he is already much offended." With this, the Lady of the Rosary opened her white hands, as always, and it seemed to Lucia that the light emerging from them ascended to where the sun ought to be, directly overhead, and it was brighter than any sunlight. Now, again, as a recap, this occurred right about noon on October 13th, 1917. And up until that moment, it was completely cloudy. It was raining. It was torrential. It wasn't just rain. It was torrential rain. The ground was just a mud pit. Everybody's clothes were absolutely drenched. Perhaps it was at this moment that the crowd saw the clouds separate like two vast curtains rolled apart, and the sun appear between them in the clear blue like a disk of white fire. Certainly, many heard Lucia cry, "Look at the sun," but she said this in ecstasy and has no recollection of it, for she was wholly absorbed in something she saw where the sun must have been. As Our Lady disappeared in the very radiance that came from her outstretched hands, there stood out in the zenith above three tableaus which symbolized one after another the joyous, the sorrowful, and the glorious mysteries of the Rosary. The first was a distinct representation of the Holy Family, Our Lady herself in her traditional dress of white with a blue mantle, and Saint Joseph beside her holding the child Jesus on his arm. Saint Joseph in white, the infant in bright red. Lucia was heard to say, "Saint Joseph is going to bless us." All three of the children saw this first vision and saw the saint make the sign of the cross 3 times over the crowd. The Holy Child did likewise. The next vision, seen by Lucia alone, was one of Our Lady of Sorrows, in the somber garb assigned to her by tradition, the Mater Dolorosa of Good Friday, but without the sword in her breast. And beside her stood her divine Son, grieving as when he met her on the way to Calvary. Lucia saw only the upper part of his figure. He looked pityingly on the crowd for whom he had died, and raised his hand to make the sign of the cross over them. Our Lady then appeared in a third vision of glory as Our Lady of Mount Carmel, crowned as Queen of heaven and of the world, her infant Son upon her knee. So, wow, just to reflect on that these visions are recapping the mysteries of the rose moments to Lucia. The crowd saw nothing of all of this. At least there seems to be no solid verification of the claim that a few saw the lady. What they all did see, however, was something stupendous, unheard of, almost apocalyptic. The sun stood forth in the clear zenith like a great silver disk, which, though bright as any sun they had ever seen, they could look straight at without blinking, and with a unique and delightful satisfaction. Now, I was in Medjugorje in 1990, and there was several occasions during that week that I was there, late afternoon where the sun is still very, very bright in Medjugorje, was able to stare at the sun without any harm. And I did that because other people were doing it as well. And then when you look, wow, there is no harm. It was an incredible experience. But to me, just a simple gift, a grace from God. But that exact thing is happening today. But this was certainly happening to all those people there in Fatima in 1917. Continuing on. This lasted but a moment. While they gazed, the huge ball began to dance. That was the word all the beholders applied to it. Now it was whirling rapidly like a gigantic fire wheel, and after doing this for some time, it stopped. Then it rotated again with dizzy, sickening speed. Finally, there appeared on the rim a border of crimson, which flung across the sky as from a hellish vortex, blood-red streamers of flame, reflecting to the earth, to the trees and shrubs, to the upturned faces and the clothes, all sorts of brilliant colors in succession. Green, red, orange, blue, violet. The whole spectrum, in fact. Madly gyrating in this manner 3 times, the fiery orb seemed to tremble, to shudder, and then to plunge precipitately in a mighty zigzag toward the crowd. A fearful cry broke from the lips of thousands of terrified persons as they fell upon their knees, thinking the end of the world had come. Some said that the air became warmer at that instant. They would not have been surprised if everything about them had burst into flames, enveloping and consuming them. Ay, Jesus, we are all going to die here. Save us, Jesus. Our Lady, save us. Oh my God, I am sorry. And one began the act of contrition. Some who had come to jeer fell on their faces and broke into sobs and abject prayers. This had lasted about 10 minutes. Then all saw the sun begin to climb in the same zigzag manner to where it had appeared before. It became tranquil, then dazzling. No one could look at it any longer. It was the sun of every day. The people stared at one another in joy and amazement. Miracle, miracle. The children were right. Our Lady made the miracle. Blessed be God. Blessed be Our Lady. The shouts were taken up all over. Some were laughing, others weeping with joy. Many were making the discovery that their drenched clothes had in some unexplained manner become perfectly dry. Avelino de Almeida reported the event in O Seculo of October 17th. Now, this reporter, he was sent there, like many from the secular press sent reporters there, to disprove that there was anything supernatural going on, that there was not going to be any miraculous event. This gentleman reported the next day in the newspaper what he saw. He tried to be as objective as he could, and he got scolded and reprimanded by his employer, by the newspaper. The managing editor told him to recant, to publish another article taking back everything that he had said in the first article. And so he went ahead and published another article affirming what he had stated initially. There was no change. And I'm not sure if he kept his job or not after that, but what a strong man of courage. And he was not a believer. He was not a man of faith. He was there to disprove this event. And he just was very honest in his reporting of this event. And this is what he said. One can see, a spectacle unique and incredible if one had not been a witness of it. One can see the immense crowd turn toward the sun, which reveals itself free of the clouds in full noon. The great star of day makes one think of a silver plaque, and it is possible to look straight at it without the least discomfort. It does not burn, it does not blind. It might be like an eclipse. But now bursts forth a colossal clamor, and we hear the nearest spectators crying, "Miracle, miracle, marvel, marvel." And then the author, William Thomas Walsh, goes on and continues to say, the people continued to scream and cry out, begging God to pardon their sins. Afterwards, we ran to the chapels of the town, which were filled in a few moments. During those long minutes of solar phenomenon, objects all about us reflected all the colors of the rainbow. As we looked at one another, one seemed blue, another yellow, another vermilion. All of these strange phenomena increased the terror of the crowd. After about 10 minutes, the sun returned to its place in the same way it had descended, still pale and without splendor. Plenty of witnesses are still living in the neighborhood. And so there's all this testimony and these firsthand eyewitness accounts of what happened on that miraculous day, October 13th, 1917, in a little village called Fatima in Portugal. Thanks so much for watching. Appreciate you subscribing. God bless you. We'll see you on the next video. Take care.